Do you like beer, Vikings and marauding? Maybe a little bit of humor on top? Then Sports and Soldiers 2 Shawarmageddon might be the right thing for you. This side-scrolling strategy game developed by Romino Games that are sitting in the Netherlands got originally released in 2015 for the Wii U. And since no one actually has one of those, PC, PlayStation and Nintendo Switch players finally get the chance to get their hands on this game 3 years later. I'm always a bit skeptical when console games get a PC port after the actual launch. I'm looking at you, Rockstar. But I actually got the chance to playtest this game with a friend on the latest gamescom and we have quite some fun playing it. So I definitely wanted to give this game a try when it would launch on PC, and well, it did last week and here we are. So let's not waste any more of your time and let's see what this game has to offer. The first thing to talk about, of course, is the comic graphic style of the game, what in my opinion conserved great over the last years and didn't lose any of its charm or humor that go alongside with the rest of the game. On my 21-inch screen the game looks really nice, and I even saw it on a big TV screen once where it still looks really clean. What could also get relevant for PC players, but more about that later. In the core, the game is a side-scrolling strategy game. You will produce gold with your villagers that will either get it in a mine in old Warcraft 3 fashion, one after another for 40 gold a trip, or you can send villagers that get big gold boxes that spawn on the battlefield that will give you 125 gold per trip. With that gold you can then produce new villagers, army or research spells, new buildings or new units at your tech tree. The mana required for spells will either refill very slowly by itself, or you can help it out with a special mana generating building that you can research when you play the Viking. Or you can switch your gold mine into a mana mine at any time when you play the Persians. There are also mana cubes that spawn with the gold cubes in the middle of the map, so you can also send your villagers out to get those to get a little bit of a mana boost. The units counter out each other quite well, and even if I found strategies that might be close to it, I never found the one overpowered strategy that helped me to steamroll every opponent without any problems. And I were rather forced to adapt quite quickly to the playstyle of my opponent. But from my perspective, playing through the campaign and a little bit of multiplayer, it seems to have a nice general balance to it. If you like side-scrolling strategy games, you will be quite happy with this one. And there are definitely a few unique ideas in there that I haven't spotted yet in any other side-scrolling game. The voice acting in the game is great as far as it exists. So the narrator named Brokenbeard will lead you through the campaign that is completely voice acted. But in the actual missions you will only hear and sounds, but they're actually not too numerous for the different characters. But don't fail at giving you a good impression of the character and are all over the board quite fitting. So I definitely caught myself having to smile a bit about certain sound effects, even though that I can only rate the English version right here. And I'm quite sure that the narrator will also only be voice acted if you play the game in English. The campaign of the game counts 15 missions and will not only serve you as a tutorial to the game, but will also require you to solve a few puzzles and different missions that will strongly differ from everything what you will be seeing in the multiplayer. We'll be starting into the campaign with Redbeard, a horned Viking that will be hunting the white-bearded Viking Blackbeard through the landscapes of the campaign map for the next time. The charm of the game caught me undeniably quite early in the game, and I fell in love with the bloodthirsty Vikings that don't want anything more than gold and shawarma, and the almost disgustingly greedy villagers that will all seem to be handpicked for the job. Even though that the game may be in danger to be a little bit shallow being a side-scrolling strategy game that can only work on 2 dimensions, the game kept my attention throughout the whole campaign without too much problems, and the frustration factor for newer players to the game will also be quite small, since the option to call in force favor will be given to you at any time, what most likely gives you a little help with the mission if you are done trying it on the normal difficulty mode. But I can't of course completely confirm that because I never used it. Lies! How you might imagine, the story of the campaign will take some quite crazy twists to introduce the 2 other factions of the game beside the Vikings, what are the Persians and the demons. So you will learn about most of the units and factions over a number of different missions in the game, with some being quite similar to the normal game mode and others being quite creative new ideas how to play missions on a side-scrolling strategy game. I'm gonna show you a few pictures here, but I don't want to comment too much on it and rather let you find out for yourself if you decide to try out the game. In the campaign you will oftentimes play mixed civilizations, so your tech tree will have techs from different factions, what gives the campaign a quite unique feel and really makes it feel different from the multiplayer game. The game releases with an online multiplayer mode and a leaderboard, what is basically a win counter for all the online matches with having the player with the most wins on top. So you don't need to expect an all too deep MMR system or something similar. And because of that, there's of course no balanced matchmaking for online games. So you might run into players that are already a lot more or less experienced than you are. While there is an automatic matchmaking system, what only requires you to choose a clan and wait for another player to look for a game. You can of course also play games against your friends, with the maximum amount of players of course being 2, being a side-scrolling strategy game. If you want to play the game with your friends on a single device, this is also possible, and that's actually why I found it quite important that the game still remains quite nice on a big TV screen, since you can play it in split screen, what I think is actually super neat. I can't really remember anymore when I had a game that is so easy to get into and has such an easy way to play on split screen on a PC. The game also got released on PlayStation 4, so since the user interface for controllers already exists, it doesn't feel weird to just give your friend a controller into their hand and play against them on your keyboard. I didn't play the multiplayer all too much and had maybe around 15 to 20 games. It left me with the impressions that the multiplayer seems to be quite balanced as far as I can tell, even though there might be a few strategies that I don't know about yet. I went into the Steam reviews seeing a few people complaining about a few strategies that I tried out, but they didn't actually seem too strong and could be countered quite easy with the right combinations of units. The whole multiplayer of course circles around having the right combination of units and spells to counter out the ones of your opponent. And games often tend to play out quite different on the different maps you can play on. There are 19 different maps for the multiplayer with small differences in size and shape to guarantee that you don't get bored of the multiplayer all too fast, and are in my opinion doing a good job with it. I don't think that the game strategies will go too deep in the higher levels of multiplayer, but I'm honestly not experienced enough in it yet to completely rate that. Until now I had a great time with it, and I will most likely keep on playing the multiplayer against my friends and online players for quite a while. I like the game quite a bit, how you could maybe tell. Not only grabbed me the humor and art style of the game, but I was also quite happy to play a really good side-scrolling strategy game. The genre that in my opinion got mostly inflated by straight up mediocre mobile games in the last time. So it's nice to see a game that obviously took all the time it needed to get most of the things that I care about right. Keeping in mind that the game will set you back around 15 bucks if you can't get it in a sale, I must say that it should be a great deal for everyone who likes this type of games and maybe even enjoys to play against friends in split screen, since it's of course the most fun to play the game in my opinion. The only things I could nitpick about would be the problem to hit specific units with spells when they are stacked, while I had the feeling that there is a trick behind it. Maybe I just missed the explanation in the tutorial, but this can sometimes feel a little bit frustrating. And I'm also not a friend of clicking every text box separately to trigger the next one. I'm aware that some people want to take their time to read the quite amusing story, but I would love to have an option to just let the text boxes disappear automatically, so the flow of the story is a little bit more fluent. But those are points that didn't really hinder me to have a great time with the game and could also be updated in the future. So if you enjoy strategy games and you're not too sure if this game will appeal to you, I can almost guarantee you that this game will drop down to a really acceptable price in the Steam sales. But if you ask me, it is absolutely worth the full price, even if you're not interested in playing the online multiplayer afterwards. You can already have a great time with the campaign, and I can tell you that it feels great to have an easy to master strategy game around that you can just boot up in split screen when you have friends around. With that, I want to thank you for your attention and for watching the video. Maybe leave a like if you enjoyed it, or leave a comment down below. Your feedback is of course greatly appreciated, since this is the first classic game review that I'm doing on this channel. If you want to see more of me, you can consider subscribing to my channel, and don't forget to click the bell if you really don't want to miss out on new videos. I hope you have a great day, and maybe see you back in the next video.